Esta noche, la espera termina. Operación Triunfo llega a Telemundo. Miles respondieron al llamado.
Este es mi destino.
Pero solo unos pocos llegarán a la Gala Cero.
Aquí todo el mundo está ready. Aquí hay nivel.
¿Quiénes serán los elegidos?
Me voy a ganar mi lugar en la Gala Cero.
Descúbrelo en el gran estreno de Operación Triunfo Estados Unidos. Esta noche a las 7:06 Centro por Telemundo y Peacock.
And we're live on match day as Doug reaches for a buffalo wing. He's got it! Oh, and he's gone for a can of Pepsi too! What a finish! There's no doubt about it. It just tastes better. Match days deserve Pepsi.
Welcome to the new era of Melanin Mysteries. If this is your very first time here, again, welcome. Come on in, grab you a drink, get comfortable, and I hope you stay a while. I'm Tiffany, but you're more than welcome to call me T or Detective Lightskinn. I'm your host, your cousin with the microphone, the messy one that spills all of the tea. Now, I know I just told y'all to get comfortable, but before your ass hit that seat, let me give you a quick disclaimer because I don't want to hear about somebody's panties done got all bunched up because I cracked a joke or I laughed. Now, around here, yes, this is absolutely true crime, but I'm going to give you the facts, straight facts, but I'm also going to give you my commentary, my think pieces, and my flavor because that's just who I am. Do I cuss? Absolutely. Do I talk shit? I sure do. Will I drag an offender and turn them every which way but loose? Baby, I'm going to do my level best, all right? But one thing I will always do is honor and respect the victim because no matter the circumstances, they never deserve what happened to them. My goal is to educate just as much as I entertain. So if that's your vibe, welcome home, cousin. But if it's not, I'm going to tell you like now. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Ain't no hard feelings, I promise. But now, to my cousins, my family, hey! Lord, I have missed y'all so much. Now, I know to y'all, it probably doesn't seem like I've been gone that long, but to me, child, it's been almost 2 weeks since I pulled this microphone out. And let me tell y'all, pre-recording episodes may have to become a regular thing because when I tell y'all, life has been lifing, okay? So first and foremost, I do want to thank y'all so much for the love that y'all showed Melanin Mysteries and me for our second birthday. Like, so crazy. The comments, the messages, the emails, the voice notes, the posts, I saw and heard every single one of them. Now, I may or may not have responded to everybody, but I promise you I did read every single message, and I appreciate every last one of y'all more than y'all will ever know. Let me tell you what had happened was, okay. So y'all know I was down in New Orleans for Essence Fest, right? And let me just say, yes, a time was had. But whatever that lady told y'all, whatever Renee told y'all, I did. I don't believe her because I ain't even do nothing for real. I swear. Y'all know me. I am as innocent as they come. Right? All right. Now, the plan was we were supposed to go down there. We were supposed to be working, right? That was the plan. But did a lot of work get? No, we ate good, though. I will say we ate good. Baby, when I tell you I had crawfish, I had every type of gumbo there was to have. I had po' boys, I had beignets. Baby, if it was on the menu, we probably ordered it. And let me tell y'all, I had this crawfish etouffee cornbread. Listen, I am trying to track down this chef because I need immediately an entire pan shipped to Ohio. Like, I have not stopped thinking about it since I got home. It was the craziest combination when he said it, but I was just like, yeah. Just know that to-go plates were taken. Yeah, and they never made it back to the hotel. But anyway, we rested, and when I tell y'all, I did not realize how badly I needed that rest. Man, we laughed. We had a ball. I drank all up and down Bourbon Street. I drug her up all and down Bourbon Street. We ain't gonna talk about that. But it was my first time in New Orleans, and I can confidently say I will be back next year for 2027. Now, unfortunately, the last day we were there, I did get the call that my auntie mama passed away. And that one hit me hard because I was sitting on Canal Street and I was eating a beignet and I texted her a picture like I finally made it to New Orleans. And I was just like, I miss you. And literally a couple hours later, I got the call that she didn't make it. So I'm sorry, y'all. My heart is so broken, but I have peace knowing that she's no longer in pain and she's not suffering anymore. And I got me a new angel. So next week I have to fly out to LA to lay her to rest. So don't worry, I'm still going to have my episodes out on time because I had like a whole month planned of collabs. So I do have to move around a few things because that phone call like really knocked my life off its axis. But enough about me. We're going to go ahead and knock out these announcements real quick so we can get into what y'all really came here for. Now, if you are enjoying this show, please make sure that you are following Melanin Mysteries wherever you are listening. And while you're there, I would really, really appreciate if y'all could leave me a 5-star review. Y'all know I don't want nothing but 5 stars. And if you got a grievance, a suggestion, or if you just want to fuss at me about something I said, please don't leave me 1 star. Just send me a message. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at Melanin Mysteries Podcast. You can also hit the website, melaninmysteries.com. I don't be checking the website, but I do get an email when you send me something, so I at least get that. So if email is more your speed, you can also shoot me one at podcast@melaninmysteries.com. Now, the biggest question is, why you ain't subscribed yet? I mean, I would just like to know. Because did y'all know that subscribers get every episode early and ad-free? And Love Lies and Alibis is officially back. Yes, y'all, the main feed gets the little quick hits on Fridays, but I have segments lined up. We already have had 2 installments of the panel. Part 3 is going to be coming soon. And I have a whole bunch of other stuff lined up for y'all, and those are going to be subscriber only. And if you missed our anniversary episode, I also announced a brand new subscriber exclusive series. It's going to be called The Freedom Files, Stolen Time, where I'm going to be covering cases, talking about people who were wrongfully convicted, because there are so many. And if you know, I talk about my big brother, Ricky Jackson, who was one of those people. So that is very close to my heart. And I really want to get those stories out there because I don't feel like they're talked about enough. Now, I got my first guest locked and loaded, and I cannot wait for y'all to hear the story. Oh, and then guess what? Apple has finally approved the platform that I use to record for video podcasts. So, we about to start cutting up. I done finally got comfortable with the camera. We about to have some fun because I got some other stuff coming too. So, y'all know I stay with ideas and I keep them tucked away in the cut. So just keep rocking with me because we've got some really exciting things coming. Okay, that's enough with the announcements. We got that all out the way. So before we jump directly into today's case, I just want to talk to y'all for a minute because today's case is a little bit different. Now, don't panic. It is still very much a Melanin Mysteries case. We've got a relationship. We got lies. We still got manipulation. And we, of course, got somebody who was a control freak. And we've definitely got somebody that's about to get dragged straight through the pits of hell. But this isn't your typical Melanin Mysteries episode where we've got some sorry, no good, dumbass husband or boyfriend acting like he done lost every ounce of common sense the good Lord bless him with. See, we're entering a new year. We heading into year 3, a new era. It's a new season. And around here, we adding a little bit more seasoning to the pot. Because one thing about Detective Lightskinn, y'all know I keep talking about ain't shit ass husbands every single week. And ain't shit wives too, and girlfriends and boyfriends. But if I keep talking about those, eventually y'all gonna be like, damn, is that all that's out here? I mean, that's all I see, but I digress. Unfortunately, evil does not discriminate. Sometimes it wears the face of a spouse, parent, a child, a friend, and sometimes it wears the face of the very person who's supposed to love and protect you the most. So while today's case may not follow our usual playbook, baby, don't get it twisted, because this is still Melanin Mysteries. Because at its core, this podcast has never been just about domestic violence. It's always been about relationships, love, control, obsession, jealousy, betrayal, secrets, and the lies people tell, the choices that people make, and the devastating consequences that follow. Today's story just happens to remind us that not every relationship fits neatly into one little box. And that's for real important, because if we're going to really understand crime, we got to be willing to understand people, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, I will warn y'all, this case pissed me off, as they all do, but I was like pissed to the highest level of festivity, because sometimes the people who are supposed to love us the most become the very people we need protection from. But, this is going to preach it all itself. So, cousins, scoot your chair in a little bit closer. I need you to take a sip of whatever you're drinking, and let me tell you what had happened. Okay, we are at March 7th, 2014. So we are headed down to Port Bolivar, Texas. Now, this story, it starts off with a beer delivery driver just trying to do his job. He pulls up to the Fisherman's Cove Food Mart to make his delivery when he's like, is them bodies by a dumpster? Now, I don't know about y'all, but if I pulled up to a convenience store and saw two people laid out, my first thought probably wouldn't be murder. I'd be thinking, damn, they had one hell of a night. Maybe they was drunk. Maybe they got high and passed out. When he get closer, he like, oh shit, they ain't sleep. They dead. He like, oh shit. Now you know that beer delivery had to got put on hold real quick. He immediately calls 911. And you know, of course, police respond immediately. They take one look and they like, shit. At the top of the morning, we got a double homicide. So, you know, they go about their they call the homicide detectives out. They're processing the scene. And don't worry, because we're definitely going to come back to this because they recover a few things that they think, you know, are going to be important. So they do find a white and green shutter piece with what appears to be blood on it. And on the shutter piece is a piece of paper that's wrapped up. And on this paper is a bloody fingerprint. Now, they also noticed that there was some tire marks in the parking lot, like somebody skirted off. Yeah, so somebody drove in and somebody drove right on out too. Now, as they're looking over the bodies, they figure out that one of the women had been beaten multiple times. They said it looked like a sharp-edged object, potentially. The injuries, they said, were so severe that they fractured and split this woman's skull. And then it also looked like someone had tried to strangle her. And the other woman, it said that it looked like she had been attempted to be strangled too. But then they also noticed that she had a gunshot wound to her head. So this wasn't somebody that just, you know, lost their temper for 30 seconds. Whoever did this was determined to make sure that these women never made it home. And then detectives realized that they've got another problem. They don't know who these women are. There ain't no purse, there ain't no wallet, no driver's license. They ain't got nothing. Now, let me back up a little bit. Put yourself in those families' shoes for just a second. Because somebody is probably blowing up their phones, wondering where these women are and why they're not answering, completely unaware of the fact that they're never going to come home. So that part always gets me, wondering where they are, wondering why they're not answering, completely unaware that they're not coming home. Then the police, they kind of finally catch a little break. Wrapped around the shutter piece is a piece of mail, and it has a name on it, Brittany Crosby. Now, hold up. Just because Brittany's name is on that paper does not automatically mean one of these women's name is Brittany. But when you ain't got nothing, you're going to chase everything. And then another one notices something else too. One of the women has a tattoo, and the tattoo says Brittany. Okay, so now they thinking this probably ain't a coincidence. But it's officially a homicide investigation, and the lead detective was Detective Kitchen. And the only lead that they've got is this address that's listed on this piece of mail that they found on this envelope. So they, you know, head over to this address, hoping somebody there can tell them who Brittany Crosby was. Now, mind you, the address that was found was nowhere near where the bodies were found. This address was a ways away. So they had to make a little road trip. So when they get to the house, a woman named Annie Lee Crosby answers the door, and she confirms that Brittany is her great-granddaughter. She tells them something that immediately catches everybody's attention. And she was like, Brittany's been missing for a few days, and that's not like her. And she's like, you know, she's giving them the, you know, old people, they got to tell you everything before they tell you the whole story. They got to tell you the entire story. So she's like, yeah, you know, I've raised Brittany because her parents separated when she was a baby. I've been raising Brittany since she was about 2. So, but let me tell y'all something. Miss Annie was 90. You know, she's still doing what she can, trying to hold the family together. And also at the house is Annie's grandson, James Crosby. He had just got out of jail. Now, unfortunately, like I said, they didn't show up with the good news. They had to tell her, like, we found Brittany because, you know, she was missing, but not in the way that anybody wanted them to be found. And while they're talking, the aforementioned James, he actually just happens to walk in the house while they're talking. And that's when the detective gives them the news that Brittany had been murdered. And y'all, I don't really care how many true crime cases I cover because death notifications will never stop breaking my heart. Because in one sentence, a family's whole world changes forever. Like I said, threw my entire world off the axle, and I was kind of knew it was coming. So for it to be completely, you would have never thought, like, it has to hit you that much worse. Now while everybody's trying to process what they just heard, they asked, like, do you know who this second victim is? And James is like, yeah, absolutely. Her name was Crystal Jackson. And he's like, that's Brittany's girlfriend. So, he said, like, Crystal and Brittany, they've been together for about 2 years, but she was family. She was like, Crystal called me dad. She was part of the family. And he's like, I loved her like she was another one of my daughters. So the couple, Crystal and Brittany, they were raising Crystal's little girl, Zanaya, who spent her time between Brittany and Crystal's house and her maternal grandparents' house. So by all accounts, this was not just, a regular couple. They were building a family. And just like that, that family was completely ripped apart in a matter of minutes. And Annie and James, like I said, they didn't just lose Brittany, they lost Crystal too. So at this point, you got 2 women, 2 families, and 1 senseless tragedy. So after leaving Miss Annie's house, Detective Kitchens, he has another job to do. Unfortunately, he has to also notify Crystal's family of her death. So, they get the information and they head over to Crystal's parents' house. Now, y'all, I don't care if you got a badge, a uniform, a 3-piece suit. There's really no easy way to tell somebody their child has been murdered. When Detective Kitchens gets there, he sits down with Crystal's parents, Ivan and Mary Jackson. Let me tell y'all how I was not prepared for how this conversation went. Because the whole time I'm sitting there watching it, because they had the episode that I watched had the actual police footage of the interview. And, when they notified her father, I'm just, waiting on Ivan to, like, I don't know, cry, scream, punch a wall, ask who did this, ask if his baby suffered. Yeah, this man was so nonchalant and stoic. He, like, I don't even know what to say. Like, it was so ridiculous. I was just disgusted. Like, instead of like him grieving, he started popping shit. Now, mind you, let me back it up a little bit, because Ivan was a pastor. So, that them Bible thumping, what is it, fire and broom? I don't like that. Like, you gonna go to hell if you do that. Basically, he hated that his daughter had a girlfriend. He couldn't accept it. And instead of him grieving, it was, I told that girl was gonna be the reason she lost her life. Excuse me? That's the first thing you said? Like, that girl gonna be the cause of your death? Like, sir, your daughter has been murdered. Can we unpack that first? Like, he was just so nonchalant. And then he started talking about he believed Brittany was trying to turn little Zanaya gay. What are you talking? The baby wasn't where it's a child. What? Like, I have such a thing with that. Like, I don't understand people. Like, first of all, let's leave this child out of grown folks' business. He told them that he didn't even want Brittany in his house. Like, she said if Crystal would bring Brittany over, he'd purposely, like, make Brittany sit by herself while everybody was together because she wasn't welcome. That's just nasty. Like, you don't have to agree with everybody's relationship, but intentionally making somebody feel small, that says a whole lot more about you than it does about them, especially with you being a pastor. And that aggravates me because the church preaches love. It ain't our place to judge. And personally speaking, the lady who birthed me, she's like this with my younger brother. And I truly believe that's why he's so not together today, because she shames him for being gay. And we've had many arguments about that. That's not your business. That does not make him who he is. That's just a part of who he is. Who the fuck cares? I don't care. That does not affect how he is as a person. And she shames my brother so badly. Like, he'll show up and she'll be like, oh yeah, this is my gay son. Why does that have, like, why do we lead with that? And I get my parents came from a different generation. But first of all, my daddy's older than my mama, and he don't give a damn. He like, it is what it is. I could care less. Like, I'm happy just to have a child that's healthy. I'm happy to have a child that's doing something positive with their life. You don't shame your kids like that. Like, and I feel like that causes so much psychological damage. And and I understand, like, culturally speaking, at one point it wasn't accepted, but the kicker about my mother is how she shamed my brother so badly his entire life. She was the first person to introduce me to a transgender person. Her best friend that she grew up with was transgender. It makes no sense, because, like, that was her homie. They were cool. He was Terry, and then he transitioned to be Woza. I met Woza when I was like 10, and she explained what it was to me. And to me, I was just like, oh, okay, that's cool. Whatever. She was a nice lady. I didn't care what, like, it wasn't going through my mind of who she was she would like that. And she was a nice person to me. And that was all that mattered. And I'm like, we got to get out of that. Who cares? Why are you concerned about what somebody else is doing behind closed doors? It ain't none of your business. Okay, let me get off my little soapbox and keep going. Sorry. Right. Okay. Then he keeps going because he wasn't done. He was like, I kept telling Crystal she wasn't really gay. She was just messed up in the head. Yes, that's a direct quote. And that's when my blood pressure be high because I'm just like, respectfully, sir, your daughter has been murdered. Maybe, just maybe, this is not the time for your fucking sermon. Read the room. Matter of fact, read the whole goddamn zip code. And then meanwhile, Chris's mama, Mary, she's over there actually, trying to help the investigation because she cared about her daughter. So she's like, as far as we know, Crystal didn't have any enemies. So, they start working through the people closest to her. So since Crystal had a daughter, they're like, hey, like, Zanaya's father. And Mary like, oh, his name is Reginald Jackson. And according to her, like they wasn't never really together. You know how that go. Crystal was young. She got pregnant. And after that, baby, that man disappeared quicker than a paycheck on payday. Like, you would have had better luck calling the Ghostbusters and trying to find him. He wasn't around. He wasn't helpful parenting. He was just your everyday copy and paste deadbeat. You know how that is. Now, before we go any further, we need to kind of backtrack, and I want to talk about who Brittany and Crystal were, because I refuse to let them become nothing more than victim one and victim two. Because these young ladies, they had lives, dreams, family, and people who loved them. So first we have Brittany Latrice Crosby. So Brittany was born July 20th, 1990. So her birthday is coming up, her heavenly birthday, in Harris County, Texas, to LaRonda Rimmer and James Larry Crosby. So she was only 23 years old. That's barely getting started in life. Now, y'all remember Miss Annie, she told Detective Kitchens that Brittany's parents split up when she was just a baby, and by the time Brittany was 2, Miss Annie stepped in and raised her. And one thing about Brittany, she took care of the people who took care of her. So Miss Annie was wheelchair bound, and Brittany was basically like her right hand. She made sure her great granny had groceries and paid the bills and, ran errands, got her where she needed to go. And if something needs to be done, Brittany handled it. She had also just finished school at the Texas School of Business and was working as a coffee barista. So look, sis wasn't out here asking for no handout. She was working. And right before she was murdered, Brittany had finally saved up enough money. And between that and her income tax mischeck, because y'all know what income tax time is, she was finally able to put down a down payment on a 2006 Kia Sorento. Miss Annie co-signed for her. Look, y'all better not be over there acting bougie because it's a 2006. Listen, because when you ride in the bus, like, any car feels like a Rolls Royce. Maybe not a Rolls Royce. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. But those keys meant freedom to get to work, to help her grandma. Freedom to just get to where you gotta go. Because my God, it's been a long, long time. But being without a car is horrible. Like, oh, goodness. So she was proud of her car, and she had every reason to be. Now, let's talk about Crystal Nicole Jackson. Crystal was born August 30th, 1989, which would have made her 24 years old. She was a daughter, like I said, Pastor Ivan and Mary Jackson, preacher's kid. And according to her mom, Crystal was just a good kid. She became a mother to little Zanaya at a young age. So did life go exactly how she planned? No, but when does it ever? But she kept pushing. As we all do. That's what we do. We throw it on our back and we keep going. That's what we as Black women, that's our superpower. She was working as a security guard. She was taking care of her daughter, just trying to make it. And the two, they met in 2012 and, they started a relationship. And before long, they were living together, working, paying bills, helping to raise Zanaya, just trying to build a life. Wasn't nothing fancy or glamorous, just two women in their 20s trying to make it like the rest of us. And that's what's so freaking sad, because when I look at Brittany and Crystal, I don't see the headlines. I see two women who were excited about their future. One had finally gotten her car, and the other one was raising her daughter. They were working, building, planning, living, and somebody stole all of that. Now, we're going to circle back to Crystal's baby daddy, because they had to go find that man. I told you they probably had to call Ghostbusters to track his ass down, because they're not leaving any stone unturned. So everybody getting questioned. Mama, grandmama, girlfriend, baby daddy, everybody. So they track down Reginald Jackson. So they pull in little Reggie. And he's like, oh, matter of fact, I actually had seen Christmas and Night about a month before.
This is going to be an extremely busy month. I have to watch 104 soccer games, follow the pregame, the postgame, yell useless opinions at the TV. It's a lot. So I knew that when it comes to screening for colon cancer, the choice was clear. The Cologuard Plus test. It can be used at home and can only take 15 minutes, so I can do it during halftime and not miss any action. If you are 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about screening for colon cancer with the Cologuard test. You can also request a prescription at Cologuard.com.
If you want all of your data in one place, you need the Intuit ERP. I'm Damon John, and I run my growing business on Intuit Enterprise Suite. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP.
Keyword on seen. Not he said he spent time with. Like, he ain't take his daughter to get no ice cream or, picked her up for the weekend. Like, I had my baby. No, he ran into them. Like, they was at Walmart and you see, oh, hey. Yeah, like that. Like, you talking about your daughter like she an old classmate you bumped into. Like, what do you mean you ran into your child? Never mind, because I know how that is. According to Mary, Crystal and Reggie were, they wasn't together. So, but deadbeats just get up under my skin. I can't stand a sorry ass father. Like, I swear on everything. I feel like if you don't take care of your kids, I don't care if you're a man or a woman, if you are a deadbeat, your life will never be easy. It just won't. You will not be blessed if you are a deadbeat parent. I don't like deadbeats. I just don't. The kid didn't ask to be here. Do right by your kid. I don't care what your baby mama doing. I don't care what your baby daddy doing. That ain't got nothing to do with that kid. Being a deadbeat don't make you a murderer. So before somebody starts saying, Tiffany, you reaching, I'm not. Okay? Detective Kitchens still had a job to do. So they go ahead, they collect Brittany's DNA. They run it. He's ruled out. Okay, so, okay. He's just a deadbeat daddy, a sorry ass nigga, but I bet you he didn't get custody of that baby. Now, 4 days go by. The phone rings. Police get a tip from somebody who's like, hey, I think I might have found something. Turns out he had actually found Brittany's wallet and it had her driver's license inside. So the crazy part was the person had already dropped the wallet in the mail, just being a good Samaritan, and sent it back to the address that was on her license. But then they saw the murder all over the news and they immediately called police. Now, what they found out, the detectives, was that while it wasn't found anywhere near Port Bolivar, it was actually found about 1.5 miles from Brittany and Crystal's house back in Houston, Miss Annie's house, because that's where they live. But like I said, something ain't adding up because Port Bolivar from Houston is like 70 to 75 miles. And then it says about 1.5 hours, 2 hours driving time, depending on traffic and whether you're taking the Boulevard ferry or driving around via I-10. Okay, so ain't a close distance. So something ain't adding up. Now, when they finally get the autopsy results back from the medical examiner, let's talk about how these women did not die the same way. Now, Crystal's cause of death was officially ruled a gunshot wound to the head fired from very close range. Brittany, it said that she looked like she had been hit about 5 times and she died from blunt force trauma. So whoever did this had 2 different murder weapons, 2 victims, and they still thought they were going to get away with it. Yeah, you did. Now, Detective Kitchens and the rest of the investigators start putting their heads together. They're thinking like, okay, so these women didn't die in Port Bolivar. They lived in Harris County. So their theory is the murders probably happened in Harris County and the bodies were dumped over in Galveston County to throw the investigators off. Now, like I just said, there's 2 ways to get from Harris County to Bolivar. There's the ferry, and like I said, there's I-10. So all I can say is, thank God for surveillance cameras. I guess back in 2014, most people took the ferries. They were like, let's start here. So they're like, let's pull every camera we can find from the Galveston and Bolivar ferry landings. Now, y'all, this is where this case starts casing. So they sit down and they are watching hours and hours of surveillance footage. And wouldn't you know it? On March 6, 2014, around 9:18 p.m., they spot a silver Kia SUV with a missing headlight getting pulled over by one of the ferry workers for an inspection. And then about 20 minutes later, the very same Kia is seen driving off the ferry onto the Boulevard side. Now, if y'all remember, like I said, Brittany had just bought herself that 2006 Kia Sorento, the same car she was so proud of. Now, all of a sudden, her Kia is showing up on a ferry surveillance headed toward the same county where she and Crystal would later be found dead. The plot just thickened like cold grits. Now, detectives, they go ahead and they track down that ferry worker who stopped that SUV. His name was Mr. Robert Ingram. Now, Mr. Robert tells him that he remembers pulling the silver Kia over sometime between 8 and 10 p.m. that night on the Galveston side because one of the headlights was out. He was like, yeah, it was a black dude driving the SUV. The man got out, walked to the front of the SUV, popped the hood, and I guess he was checking the headlight. But he was like, ain't nothing really make me catch any red flags to stop him. He said he was like, look, my job was to make sure wasn't nobody bringing nothing on that ferry that could threaten the passengers on the boat, make sure everything was, on the up and up. But he said he didn't believe the driver posed any danger. So he was like, you can go on about your business, sir. Now, I know Robert probably went home and replayed that whole interaction in his head 1,000 times after finding out what happened. Because in hindsight, you have got to be questioning every little thing like, damn, I really just let a murderer roll on by me and didn't even know. Whew. So detectives are like, hey, would you be willing to sit down with a sketch artist and help create a composite sketch of the man you saw driving that Kia? So he was like, hell yeah, I got y'all. Hey, y'all, let me tell you about this sketch. It was about to become one of the biggest pieces of this entire investigation, turning it into a hot-ass mess. Now, while detectives over there pulling surveillance from the ferry, they not putting all their eggs in one basket, because one thing Detective Kitchen knows is something popped off back in Harris County in Houston. It had to, because ain't no way these women just magically appeared in Port Bolivar. So detectives, they start pulling surveillance from around Brittany and Crystal's neighborhood too. And of course, they found something, because it was just divine intervention. It had to be. So on March 6th at 7:48 that morning, surveillance from a convenience store catches that same Kia Sorento leaving the parking lot. So again, they got this SUV on camera, but they can't tell who's driving it. I know that's the type of stuff that make detectives want to fight the surveillance camera. You mean to tell me you see the car, but not the person driving it? Just enough to get everybody excited, then boom, dead end. Now let's swing back over to this composite sketch. So detectives done had this man sketched up and they taking his face all over town. They showed to Brittany's family. They like, no, I ain't never seen that man. They showed to Crystal's family. They like, we don't know that man either. And at this point, I'm sure Detective Kitchens is like, is anybody gonna recognize this man? So when he takes the sketch over to Miss Annie's house, like I said, Miss Annie, she was elderly, so she had a caregiver, that stayed whenever Brittany was at work. And she take a look at this sketch. She like, I don't know that man either. But before Detective Kitchens leaves, she was like, but you know what? Hold on one second, because I need to show you something. Because something just wasn't sitting right in her spirit. And this is why I be telling y'all, don't be underestimating older folks. Because when I tell you, they notice everything. So she takes Detective Kitchens out to the carport and she like, look. And I'm sure he's standing there like, what am I looking at? Like, I'm looking with, she like, sir, no, look. He like, she's like, the carport clean. And he probably like, oh, okay, isn't that a good thing? And she's like, no, it's not. It's never clean. She's like, it's always leaves, dirt, debris, junk. It's always something. So why today, of all days, it looked like somebody done had Mr. Clean, the magic eraser. It looked like somebody done had Mr. Clean, the magic eraser, Dawn Platinum, bleach, Pine Sol, Fabuloso, and Jesus out there scrubbing. Now, Detective Kitchen, he finally catches what she's throwing. He starts looking around a little harder off to the side. He notices a pile of bricks. So he move these bricks. And when I tell you he moved them bricks, he starts seeing blood, little spots here, little spots there. Not enough for the average person to notice, but enough for an investigator to go, Then he look up at the house and he like, this house got white and green shutters. And one of them shutters is missing. Now, hold on just a goddamn minute. Didn't we just talk about the detectives finding a green and white shutter piece at the crime scene? Because not a math. Oh, baby, it's math then. Because now it's looking less like Brittany and Crystal were murdered in Port Bolivar and looking a whole lot more like somebody murdered them at this house, loaded them into that Kia, cleaned up the scene. Well, try to clean it up. See, that's the one thing about blood. Blood don't care how much bleach you got. It's always got a way of saying, I'm still here. Hey, boo. Now, while Detective Kitchens and his team are over there putting these puzzle pieces together, On March 12, 2014, family and friends gathered for a candlelight vigil to honor Brittany and Crystal. And meanwhile, the investigation is starting to pick up some steam because what started as a mystery about two women found behind a dumpster was quickly turning into a cover-up that wasn't covered up nearly as well as somebody thought it was. Now, hold on, because while all this is going on, like I said, at the vigil, James, the news people was out there, and James was like, I'm going to go ahead and do this little interview. You know, he's a grieving parent. And I need y'all to listen real close to what this man says. He said, quote, I will miss my daughter's smile, her bubbliness, her spontaneity. She was like my twin. She looked like me. Her features were like mine. Her hands were like mine. Everything about her was just like me. I'm going to just sit that right there for now. Matter of fact, I'm going to put a pin in it because we're going to come back to that. Because I got questions, concerns, thoughts. I got a whole dissertation, but I'm going to let Detective Kitchens finish gathering his receipts first. Now, wouldn't y'all know it? By the very next morning, that James had traded that candlelight vigil for an interrogation room. That man didn't even have time to change his clothes because they just went ahead and they arrested his ass. They were like, something ain't right. Something ain't right. We're just gonna arrest you. We'll figure out the details later. So they get him in the interrogation room. And when I tell y'all that man got the stuttering so bad, Joe would have had to pay him royalties. Stutter. Yes, that man, he was talking, but he wasn't saying nothing. His lips was moving, words was coming out, but he wasn't saying shit. I hate people who do that. Like, you know how they be talking, but they don't be saying anything? That drives me crazy. And he did this shit for 6 hours. 6 hours. If talking in circles was an Olympic sport, James would have brought home the gold, silver, and the bronze. And James over here auditioning for the role of Captain Confusion. Detective Kitchens and his team are over at Miss Annie's house with a search warrant. Y'all, when they get in James' room, a hot-ass mess is an understatement. They said when they really started, paying like really close attention with CSI, they said they found blood leading into the house. Like it was on like the door jam way. Child, why was the blood all up and through that man's bedroom? How the fuck you sleeping in the room like this is a low budget episode of Dexter? Like you ain't asking no questions. Sir, you thought blood was part of the decor? Was it an accent color? So, they like, you want to tell us about this blood that we found in your room? Somebody, I don't know nothing about no blood. Now, James, be fucking for real. So the detectives, they start pulling out picture after picture after picture after picture. By the time they got done, they said they had over 300 pieces of evidence, child. They was not playing with this man. So at this point, they had actually just charged him with tampering with evidence, and they said his bond at $500,000. Now, I'm going to tell y'all this. Wasn't nobody coming to bail out Mr. Snaggletooth, Wide Eyes, Alligator Testicle looking ass, okay? He was finna get real comfortable where he was at. And y'all already know how this goes. As soon as somebody gets arrested, folks start singing like they was trying to win a Grammy. And this is where I get irritated. So they ended up, here come Brittany mama, Loranda. She like, look, James just hated the fact that Brittany was gay. She was like, they argued about it all the time. And she was like, he just constantly threw Brittany's sexuality in her face. Like she said at one time, like she heard him say, quote, don't throw that gay shit around this house. Throw it around the house? Like, is it glitter? Seasoning? Sir, homosexuality is not... What are we talking about? Anyway, I'm just so disgusted. Miss Annie said she never knew about any issues between James and Brittany. As far as she knew, everything was fine. Now, me personally, what I think James knew exactly who to perform for. I bet my last bottle of Espolon, he was not acting a fool in front of 90-year-old Miss Annie. And while James is like, cooling his heels, getting comfortable in jail, detectives still got to figure out, was he the man driving Brittany's kid onto that ferry? Y'all remember Mr. Robert Ingram, that ferry worker with the busted headlight stop? Yeah, so they go bring him down to the station. They want him to ID James in the lineup. So the first time, Mr. Robert was like, I don't even see the man that I saw that day. And then on top of that, to double down on that, he signs a confidence statement saying that he's 100% sure about his decision. So this is where it started to get a little bit funny style. Detective was like, yeah, we ain't accepting that. So they bring him back again for another lineup. Now this time he does point to James, but his confidence drops from 100% to 50%. So that ain't looking too good. And this is why I be telling y'all investigations are so messy, because by the time it gets to the jurors, and if I'm a juror, I'm looking like, so yesterday you was 100% sure it wasn't him, but today you're only halfway sure that it is him. But he did say that the man that he stopped had hair and facial hair, but James was bald and had no facial hair. I mean, but that ain't nothing a razor couldn't change. Now, I do wonder if Robert was one of us or if he was one of them, because it's really given they all look alike, and that's why he wasn't all the way confident. I got questions and or concerns, but whatever. Detective Kitchens, he wasn't about to let that 50% stop him. So let me actually back this thing up for just a second, because I need to properly introduce y'all to this sorry, sick in the head, slower than an unplugged toaster, bobblehead looking ass fool. And let me tell y'all, I'm going to post the visuals on social media, because when y'all go and look at him, I'm not even being petty for real. I promise I'm being very descriptive, looking like wide-eyed Freddy done wandered into the wrong goddamn movie. But anyway, I want y'all to meet James Larry Crosby.
Welcome to a new era of baseball's great spectacle, the T-Mobile Home Run Derby, live on Netflix. The biggest sluggers in baseball put their talents to the test on All-Star Weekend. Raw power meets star power. Big swagger meets bigger slams. And you don't swing to make contact. You swing to make history. Watch the T-Mobile Home Run Derby live on Netflix this Monday, July 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
Now, James was born around 1968. His mom was Patricia Nixon. And as for his daddy, the information ain't out there. He probably didn't want to be involved with the nigga either. Now, one thing that James was not, he was not a first-time offender, I'll tell you that. This man had been collecting charges like folks collect baseball cards. I heard them back in style. Now, back in 1989, he was convicted of sexual assault. So he's a trash-ass individual. He served about 10 years. He gets out. What does he do? He gets himself an aggravated assault conviction and heads right back to prison for another 2 years in 1994. Sir, clearly you were not being rehabilitated in jail. Not that U.S. jails do that, but you wasn't learning shit. You wasn't learning shit. At least learn how to be a better criminal so you don't get caught the next time. Learn some shit. Then in 2010, because apparently if life wasn't complicated enough, James failed to register as a sex offender from that 1989 convention. So guess what? Yep, he had to go back to prison for another 3 years. But let me tell y'all how, when all this went down, James had only been out of prison for 5 months before Brittany and Crystal were murdered. Now remember, when detectives first arrested James, they weren't charging him with murder. Not yet. At that point, he was being charged with tampering with evidence because detectives believed that he'd seen Brittany and Crystal's bodies on March 6, 2014 and failed to report what he knew. That didn't sit right with me, but I'm just reporting what was in the newspapers. Now, that was just the appetizer, though. The entree hadn't even hit the table yet. So this is what they believed happened as they were gathering more evidence. They believed that sometime early that morning, an argument broke out inside Miss Annie's house. They believe James attacked Brittany inside his bedroom, beating her multiple times, and Crystal walks in, saw what happened, tried to get away. They believe that James chased Crystal down and shot her. And before anybody says, well, where was Miss Annie? We got to remember, she was 90 years old. It's 7:30 in the morning. She's wheelchair bound. I ain't trying to be funny, but at that age, she may not have had the best hearing. So she really may not have heard what happened. Or she was still asleep. So we don't. So there was one other person there that morning. Remember little Zanaya? Y'all, what that little girl would eventually tell the police will be one of the most heartbreaking pieces of this entire case. And I'm going to save that for just a minute because Detective Kitchens wasn't ready to interview her just yet. But how about all this? Now, they do lay Brittany and Crystal to rest. And I don't know this kind of aggravated me, but they literally had 2 separate services in 2 separate locations on the same day. And I don't know, and this is just me speculating, but I really feel like that was Crystal's daddy Ivan. If it had been me, I would have done a joint service for them. They work together, bury them together, give them a funeral together. What about friends? Are you going to make friends choose which funeral to go to? Like, I just thought that was very tasteless. But I really think that, and this is again purely just my speculation and opinion, that it was Crystal's daddy that made it like that. But like I said, back to Zanaya. Her little voice is about to change this investigation in a major way. So by the time Detective Kitchen finally sits down with Zanaya, and because she's a child, she isn't trying to build a timeline or solve a murder. She's just telling them what happened, the way the kids do. So she's telling them that morning she was getting ready for a school field trip. Brittany helped her get ready and took her outside to the Kia. Brittany goes back inside the house. And then that was the last time Zanaya saw Brittany alive. And as the interview continues, Zanaya tells detectives that she remembers hearing arguing inside the house. She heard a gunshot. Could y'all imagine being that little and you're getting ready for a field trip, excited, thinking about your friends, wondering what snacks your teacher packed in a matter of minutes? Your whole world changes forever. Yeah, so she was so scared. She said she pretended to be asleep. But while pretending to be asleep, she said she later told detectives that she saw James and noticed there was blood on him, and she also described seeing him cleaning himself up. Now let that sink in, because this little girl wasn't trying to accuse anybody. She was simply just telling them what she remembered seeing. And with every answer she gave, the picture Detective Kitchens had been trying to put together started making a whole lot more sense. And as heartbreaking as that baby's interview was, they still needed physical evidence to back up what she was saying. And I said, that's exactly what it was about to get. So April of 2014, Brittany's 2006 Kia Sorrento finally resurfaces. And this wasn't because somebody had a guilty conscience and dropped it off at the police station. No, it had been left at a strip club, and the owner had got it towed because he was tired of it sitting on his property. And see, whoever left that Kia, they thought they were probably being slick. But listen, tow trucks don't give a damn about your master plan. If your car don't belong there, it's getting hooked up and hauled off. And thank God it did, because now they are able to have possession of Brittany's SUV. Crime scene technicians go through it front to back. And wouldn't you know it, they recover bullet fragments from inside the Kia. Now, remember when I told y'all to put a pin in Crystal's autopsy? Remember the medical examiner said Crystal died from a close-range gunshot wound to the head. Well, there were bullet fragments recovered from that Kia that matched the bullet fragments recovered during Crystal's autopsy. And it ends up coming back that fingerprint matched James's fingerprint on that piece of mail. So ain't nobody working off theories no more. Everything is lining up. They got Zanaya's statement, the blood evidence at Miss Annie's house, the busted up carport, the missing shutter, the bloody fingerprint, the Kia, the bullet fragments. When I tell y'all James's house, the car was falling apart one receipt at a time. Now, up until this point, like I said, James had been sitting in jail on that tampering with evidence charge. But after they didn't put all these pieces together, that little chart, it wasn't going to cut it. So James Larry Crosby was officially upgraded to a double capital murder. And that little $500,000 bond, it was revoked. No bond. No, it wasn't nobody. Well, they couldn't get enough fish fries together that quick to get them out anyway. So ain't no bonding out. So let me tell you how. We didn't made it to the courtroom yet, but they already knew he did this shit. Like, I don't even know why we even have to go to court. I mean, I get the whole guilty until proven innocent, but shoot, we done proved it with the evidence. But I digress, because that is important in certain cases, because that's how some people are, evidence can be planted. But we're going to go ahead and head to trial anyway, because Mr. Snoutface Bobblehead Unplugged Toaster looking ass finally had an answer for what he allegedly did. Now, trial, it kicks off on August 20th, 2016. And when I tell y'all the state showed up like they had been waiting on this moment, they was just jumping up and down. I've been waiting for this. And I'm going to keep it real with y'all. This wasn't one of those cases where everything was wrapped up in a pretty little bow because they never found the actual murder weapon. They really didn't have a smoking gun motive. You know, they've speculated James was jealous of Brittany. And when you think about it, it really does make sense. Brittany had a job. She had her Kia. She had money coming in. She was taking care of her great grandmother. She's doing something with her life. She got a girlfriend. She got a stepdaughter. She's doing good. She's on the up and up. Meanwhile, this bum ass nigga just got out of prison again. Now I saw they said he was working as a longshoreman at some point. I don't know. I ain't seen no pay stubs. All I know is every time we turned around, this fool was back in jail. So anyway, the prosecution was like, we ain't gotta have a murder weapon, but watch this. So they start rolling them receipts out one by one. Then they called in the FBI cell phone analysis. And y'all, this is where I would have leaned over to my attorney and just whispered like. So this is where I would have probably just leaned over to my attorney and whispered, I think it's over. Do you think I can get a plea deal? Do you think maybe? Oh, okay. Because let me tell you how the FBI, they had tracked James' cell phone. And look here, that day that everything went down, that phone went from Houston to the Bolivar Peninsula, then back towards Houston. Right over there by the same strip club where Brittany's Kia eventually turned up. Now, if your stomach ain't hurting yet, just hold on, because this next part, when I tell y'all I laughed so hard, but not because it's funny, because it's not funny, because this man is fucking stupid. So remember how I told y'all know how I feel about broke ass niggas. A broke ass man somehow always got a girlfriend. When I tell y'all they don't be having rent, they ain't got gas money, they ain't got child support money, but they always got somebody calling them bae, and they always got some dick hiding ready to go. I just need to make sense. But anyway, James' girlfriend, her name was Kimberly Pierce. And wouldn't you know it, she got up on that stand and was like, yeah, I had picked him up. She said she picked him up from a Whataburger near the same strip club where Brittany's Kia was later found. But let me tell you, this is the part. This is the part right here. Why, after she picked him up and they driving, right? They driving. How about this man, this dumbass, this frog-faced, slower than an unplugged air fryer. Lord Jesus. Y'all gotta be better criminals. He pulls out his phone, his own phone, to call the Houston Police Department, the Houston 911. Did you or did you not just commit a murder? Why are you contacting any authorities? Anyway, he calls the police talking about, we trying to my girlfriend, her ex-man, he trying to run us off the road. And then that's not even worse, because do you know he identified himself on this call? He gave them his name and his phone number. Mm-hmm. Like, do you know how cell phones work? You identified yourself on a secured, recorded line. You know them cell phones can ping towers and they can be tracked. Do you know you just put yourself exactly where the detectives needed you to be? I'm convinced James would have robbed a bank and then asked the teller for a receipt, because it just ain't no way. The FBI didn't have to guess where James was. The man told on himself twice. And all they had to do was press play. So let's talk about what the defense came with. And I'm not even gonna hold you because it ain't gonna take long. So James' attorney, his name was Kyle Verrett. He basically got up there and said, well, there ain't no murder weapon. And there ain't enough evidence to prove these women were killed during the same criminal transaction which is required for capital murder. Matter of fact, his exact words was, quote, there's no evidence of a murder weapon nor that the women were killed in the same criminal transaction, a requirement to convict a defendant of capital murder. Zero evidence of capital murder here. Is zero evidence in the room with us? I saw a lot of evidence. Is that all you had? The trial only lasted a week, y'all. That was the best they had. I would have wanted my retainer feedback, but he probably had a public defender. He couldn't afford nothing else. Now, when the defense is over there throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping something would stick, the prosecution had one last opportunity to talk to the jury. And the assistant district attorney stood up during closing arguments and basically told the jurors something I actually respected. He got up there and said that they may not never know exactly why James murdered Brittany and Crystal. And sadly, that's real life. Everybody wants a motive wrapped up in a neat little package. Sometimes evil just don't make sense. Hate doesn't make sense. Control doesn't make sense. But he also told the jury something else. He said the tragedy may have ended in Bolivar, but the justice starts today. And that's how you close up. That's the mic drop right there. So after sitting through 7 days of testimony, it was finally time. The jury was made up of 7 men and 7 women. They went to deliberate. Honey, they was only back there for 3 hours. They went and they ordered their Jimmy John because they needed lightning fast. And Judge Patricia Grady waited, the families, everybody waited. And they came up with a guilty, capital murder. And because this happened in Texas, there's only 2 real options left, the death penalty or life without the possibility of parole. Now, for reasons that were never really made clear, the death penalty was taken off the table. Now, me personally, y'all already know, this man had already been in and out of prison for his whole adult life. He sexually assaulted somebody, caught an aggravated assault, failed to register as a sex offender, and then prosecutors proved he murdered his own daughter and her girlfriend. At what point do we stop giving out 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th chances? Like, wrap this up. Because us taxpayers, I don't live in Texas, but shit, we got enough bills. All of us. We don't need to be funding foolishness. But the judge sentences Larry James Crosby to life without the possibility of parole. And apparently the audacity was on sale, buy one, get one free that week. He files an appeal. Of course he did. His argument, he claimed the photo lineup shown to the ferry worker was impermissibly suggestive. And then he argued that there wasn't enough evidence to establish venue. Sir, respectfully, sit the fuck down. You did this shit. You then called the police with your own phone. You put yourself near the strip club. Your bloody fingerprint was at the crime scene. There's blood in your room. Your granddaughter gave investigators one of the most heartbreaking eyewitnesses accounts imaginable. You traumatized that baby for the rest of her life. The call is coming from inside the house. Enough. Please stop wasting taxpayers' money. Now, thankfully, you know how that went. Denied. He didn't get what he wanted. And Larry Crosby is sitting exactly where he belongs, behind bars, for the rest of his life. He's serving the rest of his hopefully miserable life at the Alfred Hughes Correctional Facility. And y'all, that, cousins, was the case of the tragic murders of Brittany Crosby and Crystal Jackson. May Brittany and Crystal continue to rest in peace. And I pray that little Zanaya has found healing after experiencing something no baby should ever have to experience. And as for James, well, he got the rest of his life to think about it. And that is going to wrap up this week's case. So first and foremost, I just want to thank you all again for hanging out with me for another episode of Melanin Mysteries, the new era. Whether this is your first episode or you've been rocking with me since day one or somewhere in between, I appreciate every single one of y'all. And like I told you at the beginning of the episode, we are officially moving into another year, and I'm still figuring some things out because I'm trying to make a little changes here and there, new segments, new ideas, some things I'm testing out. So I just ask y'all to bear with me and work with me. I promise it's all going to come together. I definitely want to hear what y'all thought about this case, because this one right here had me talking back to my computer screen, child. Y'all don't understand. Saturday night, I was legit, I had a whole nother case planned. I've had it written out for weeks, had a whole nother case planned. I was just not feeling it. 11:30 p.m., scrap that case. Luckily, this one was mostly research. I just had to put a little with it, but it took me forever. So I was up till almost 4 a.m. getting this script together, getting my notes all right and all that stuff. So I'm putting in work over here. So like I said, I just need y'all to work with me. So anyway, like I said, come find me on social media. I love to hear from y'all. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook's Melanin Mysteries Podcast. Don't forget to join the Melanin Mysteries Podcast discussion group, Love, Lies, and Alibis. And like I said, you can always shoot me an email if you want, podcast@melaninmysteries.com. You can hit the website, melaninmysteries.com. And let's keep the conversation going, because y'all know I love hearing y'all think pieces. Oh, and before y'all yell at me, yes, I know there was not a vibe check this week. Like I said, I was in New Orleans and life started life, and I switched the whole case around, and I was just I'm fighting for my life this week. So the vibe check had to take a little vacation, but don't worry, we will be back on schedule for next episode. And if you enjoyed today's episode, if you could please do me a big favor and leave a 5-star review wherever you're listening, because those reviews do help the show grow and they help other cousins find me too. And while you're at it, I need you to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell their friend to tell their cousin to tell their auntie to tell everybody to listen to Melanin Mysteries, because don't be stingy with me. I got enough love for all of y'all. So, all right, cousins, until next week, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and remember, hearts break, but alibis don't. And I'll see y'all next week.